This episode of Around the Oval is brought to you by Todd Pennington with Revolution Mortgage.
Hey, Ohio State fans, Alex Gleitman here, back with another edition of Around the Oval, brought to you by Todd Pennington with Revolution Mortgage. It is Sweet 16, Elite 8 weekend 2 of the NCAA tournament. March Madness in full effect. The Buckeyes are no longer in the pool, but it still should be an exciting weekend of college basketball. And to talk about this weekend's games from my favorite perspective, the betting perspective, we bring in CBS Sportsline analyst Allan Bell. Allan, appreciate you joining the show.
Alex, appreciate you having me on, buddy, man. How we doing?
I'm good, man. Always one of my favorites from my time at 24/7 Sports. Took a bunch of trips down to Nashville. We always kicked it. So glad to be reconnecting. I'm glad we've kept in touch over the years, and I've been excited to follow your journey at Sportsline.
Man, no doubt, bro. And yeah, look, let me say this, man. I'm here in Nashville, right? So one, we've got a ton of people who all love Mike Vrabel. And two, right, a lot of people want Olave, right, to pair up with A.J. Brown and Robert Woods. So let me say that, man. Like, there's a lot of people paying attention in Nashville to Ohio State right now.
There you go. And, you know, Ohio State always makes their recruiting presence known in Nashville a little bit here and there. They've gotten players over the year. They got a few guys on the roster. So Nashville's always good to the Buckeyes. So I'm glad you guys feel the same for the most part. And your balls are coming back soon. So maybe we'll play each other on the field pretty soon.
It might be 100 years before Tennessee gets back to an Ohio State level, but they're trying. We'll give them that. They're trying.
Yeah, well, you know, Heupel's doing good so far. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, first, you know, before we get into this, I'm obviously familiar with Sportsline, but a lot of people listening, we got betting threads every single day, every single week on our site, whether it's just golf and weekly tournaments, if it's college basketball, college football, NFL. So I think a lot of people would be interested in your guys' product. Why don't you just tell everyone listening a little bit more about Sportsline and what you guys offer over there?
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, we're an arm of CBS Sports, and what we want to do is provide anybody that's a brand new bettor all the way to is, you know, super experienced bettor of really looking at games, bets, props, anything you name it, you know, just from a little bit better and more educated perspective. So we hit it two ways. One, we go out and find experts in the market for legitimately any sport that you can think of, from baseball, basketball, football, to horse racing, NASCAR, MMA, I mean, you name it, women's basketball. Like, we just hired a women's basketball team here, right? So what we want to do is use those individuals, but also we have an advanced model where we use an algorithm and we break down and project. We simulate each game 10,000 times, get you a projected score, and we grade the bets, right? So spreads, totals, we project out player props, you know, in the NBA, MLB, keep going down the list, NFL. And we hit it from that perspective as well, right? So, you know, for $9.99 a month, we want to give you every single tool in your arsenal that you can use. Plus, we have a live show on YouTube every single morning at 10 a.m. Eastern called The Early Edge. So youtube.com/sportsline. So we really want to hit you from all those angles, and you could take our picks. We'll certainly give those out. But if you're somebody who likes to, you know, kind of dig in and do your own, you've got every piece of data available on the planet put in those games. So yeah, long story short, that's exactly what we want to do.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think a lot of people on our site will find that useful, you know, mainly because, you know, for $10 a month, the amount of money you can make, I mean, you hit one bet, you're covering that, right? So pretty easily, even at just a $10 bet. So, you know, it's definitely worth it. It's pretty cool. Check it out. Let's dive into the tournament. I think it's been an awesome tournament so far. Very exciting games. For me, it's weird. It's like I'll have one good day on the betting side where I'm like killing, you know, I think one day I hit like 9.
Can't miss.
Yeah, can't miss. And then the next day I can't hit. So it's been one of those where like literally every other day, it's not even like, you know, half the day I'm good, half the day I'm bad. But what from a game perspective, I think they've been awesome. Tell us a little bit about, like, what's your perspective on the tournament? You know, how's betting gone for you? How's your bracket looking right now?
Yeah. So, you know, first off, I agree with you. I think it's been a great tournament so far. You know, the interesting part, like, we haven't had any buzzer beaters. Like, usually we have, you know, one or two already by now. But I think that sets up that we're going to have just an unbelievable Sweet 16, Elite 8, you know, and then everything beyond that. So I've enjoyed it. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It delivers every single year because, you know, quite frankly, and for anybody, whether you're looking at it from a fan perspective, a bracket perspective or a betting perspective, like look across all collegiate and professional sports in America. There's no postseason in any of them that are as volatile every year as the NCAA tournament, right? Like every time you think that you have a feel on it, like after this year's edition, like going into next year, you're like, okay, like I've got it. And then it's completely different, right? Like, I mean, that's what makes it so much fun, but it's so agonizing as well from any of those perspectives, is that it is difficult, man. It is the most difficult, and it's not even close. Kind of from a numbers perspective here, as we sit like Thursday through Sunday, all right, underdogs are 56.3% against the spread, right? So out of 48 games, the underdogs covered in 27 of 48, all right? Overs are hitting at 52%, so pretty close to that 50-50 line there. The interesting part, though, is that really you looked at like Thursday morning, Friday morning, Saturday morning. Favorites, like it was chalk everywhere. Like favorites were covering at a crazy clip. It was almost like 70%, right? And then it started to even out as we got through the weekend and we got through Sunday night. So, underdogs are sitting, pretty right now. Overs are sitting just a little bit above the half mark. And that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I always find it funny. If St. Peter's play Kentucky in November in the non-conference slate, they'd lose by 40 points. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible how, those little guys with nothing to lose kind of put it all on the line, and the big guys maybe tense up a little bit and play a little tight, and they're on the big stage and in front of NBA scouts. And, it's just crazy how, I mean,
it's unreal. Like, and not to interrupt you, like, I mean, that's a perfect example right there. Like, that's why you look like there are no perfect brackets. Like brackets were busted out of the first weekend. Now, a good tip, if your bracket is busted, remember this: if everyone's bracket is busted, your bracket's not busted, right? Like you're kind of still in this, right? But that's a perfect example, right? And think about this, all right? Basketball better than anybody, right? Like it's a different sport than like looking at football. Like I thought, okay, St. Peter's beat Kentucky. They took them out. Like that's the biggest win that this program will ever have and have ever had. So the next game, you're like, okay, I'm betting on Murray State. Like they've reached their high. There's no way they're going to do it again. They do it again, right? Like, so it's just crazy. Like you gave a perfect example of like how volatile the NCAA tournament can be.
Yeah, and it was the same with Oral Roberts last year. They beat Ohio State as a 15, and then they went on to win their next game too. So, yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. I think the parity across college basketball too. I mean, the little guys are catching up to the big guys. Not as we said throughout the regular season, but a group of veterans that are, battle tested together and, just feed off each other. Sometimes can beat a team full of one and done. So It's just really interesting to see. We do enter the Sweet 16 this weekend. St. Peter's is one of the teams there. Games start Thursday night, or I should say, 7:00 Eastern on Thursday. They'll go into Friday, and then we'll hit the Elite Eight. Wanted to kind of just run down real quick, not go into crazy, in depth on each of the picks. Yeah. But let's just go through each of the games, the Sweet 16, all 8 games. First game up, Arkansas at Gonzaga. Eric Musselman's had this Arkansas team playing really good basketball over the last 2 years. They had a little bit of a scare against Vermont, and even last game, but they get to take on Gonzaga, who had a little bit of a scare themselves against Memphis, but is, I think, in my opinion, you can't even debate. I think they're the best team in the country right now. I mean, Arizona and Kansas may beg to differ, but number 1 seed overall. How do what's your pick for this game?
Yeah, so I'm with you. Like, and I was gonna say, like, Gonzaga had a scare, Arizona had a scare, Texas Tech had a scare. Like all of these teams, really, except Houston. Houston's the only team that really hasn't had it, right? So it goes to your point of like how parity across college basketball is right there. Look, we're gonna talk about it as we go through these games. Gonzaga should win the game. Arkansas is a good basketball team. Like I've seen them, here in the SEC all through the year. They're a good basketball team for sure. Gonzaga is much better. But if you're looking at like 9.5 points, and it's a lot, right? Like, so I don't have a bet on it, but if I did, I'd probably take Arkansas with the points and Gonzaga, a money line, like type of throw them in a parlay because you think they're going to win the game. But yeah, 9.5, like that's a lot of points, for the time that we're at right now.
Yeah. And next game, I'm with you. I think I I think Gonzaga is going to win the game. I always look for like these kind of, I don't want to say fishy. Yeah. Like fishy spreads. I don't know if this is a fishy spread because then I like to, it's almost too good to be true in Vegas. Vegas is hooking you for a reason.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's like, people see Gonzaga have a scare. Arkansas is a really good team. They're favored by like 10 points. That's a lot. I almost want to take Gonzaga because of that, but I'll probably stay away from that one, to be honest. I have Gonzaga winning it all, so I'll probably just root for them. But the next game, the 7:29 game on TBS, is going to be real interesting for the people listening to this show for the most part. Villanova, who just beat Ohio State, is going to be taking on Michigan, as they're known around these parts, the team up north. Villanova favored by 5, so very similar line to Ohio State. I think that makes sense. So Ohio State and Michigan, I think are, if they play 10 times, I think it might be 5-5, both ways. So a little bit of a different team Michigan is than Ohio State, but what's your take on the Wildcats versus the Wolverines?
Yeah, so you're telling me no love lost there between Ohio State and Michigan.
No love lost.
No, look, man. Look, I obviously saw Michigan through the season. Saw them, take down Tennessee, a good Tennessee team that quite frankly was playing as good as anyone. Coming into the tournament, and Michigan handled their business. Look, Michigan's a good basketball team, right? Like they can play defense. Hunter Dickinson, obviously All-American, he could play, but I like Villanova to win the game. I like Villanova to cover the spread, right? Sitting at 5. I like that. I think Villanova is a much better team. I think that they're not that Juwan Howard's not a good coach, but I think Villanova is probably as well coached as anyone, in the country. And they hit all of their free throws, right? Like that's the difference. And not that Michigan doesn't, but Villanova hits all of their free throws, right? So yeah, give me Villanova to win. Give me Villanova to cover in this one.
Yeah, that's music to our ears here in the Buckeye State. Let's talk an interesting matchup, a 3 versus 2, Texas Tech versus Duke. Texas Tech is the 3 is actually favored by a point in this one as we record this. Duke, is this going to be Coach K's last game? Does Texas Tech cover or does Duke get it done?
Yeah, so you're looking at a spread of 1, right? Texas Tech, it's tight. So you're essentially choosing who you want to win. It's kind of like a bracket pick, right? Look, I'm going Texas Tech, and it's nothing against Duke, but I think Texas Tech is a better overall team. I think that they can run, where Duke might not want to do it. And look, Paolo is a beast for Duke. When he wants to be, he's the best player in the country, but he doesn't always look like that. And I think in that Duke system, he's kind of held back a little bit. I think Duke's kind of like, this is their ceiling of where they're at. And I think Texas Tech's just a much better team. So yeah, give me Texas Tech -1. I'll ride with that one for sure.
Yeah, if Duke on their best day is better than Texas Tech, in my opinion, but to your point, they're not always bringing their best day. I mean, I know it was early in the season, Ohio State fans, obviously very familiar. Duke played a great, call it 30 minutes against Ohio State and then completely collapsed the last 10 minutes. Ohio State ended up winning that game in Columbus. And I think you kind of saw the 2 Duke teams within that just one game itself, just to put in perspective for Ohio State fans listening. So I don't know. That's a tough one. I have to think on that a little bit more.
It's going to be a hell of a game. You're right. Like
Coach K, I think if Chris Beard was on the other sideline, I think I'd go Texas Tech, but I think I do give the coaching advantage to Coach K. I think, these players now sense that every game could be his last game. I think they give a little bit more, and I'm actually going to go Duke in this one for now, but I do want to give it thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last game on Thursday before we go to Friday, Houston at Arizona. Really interesting one. Arizona, the 1 seed, favored by just 1.5 points over Houston. Kelvin Sampson just has a knack for winning basketball games wherever he goes. He's done a great job with Houston. They're making another tournament run here this year. How do you feel about the Cougars versus the Wildcats?
Yeah, I think this is going to be the game of the Sweet 16, and it might be the game of the weekend. Like you look at Houston, they've won 5 straight games, or they've covered 5 straight games. They've won all 5 of those by 10+ points or more. Like Kelvin Sampson and Houston are on a roll, right? But you look at Arizona. I mean, this team is an NBA team for real. They play like an NBA team. And for any prop bettors out there, Arizona in 8 straight games has scored 81 points or more. All right. Like they've got the highest scoring total, of a team total of points scored in this tournament already. And they're the number 1 defensive efficiency team in the country as well. Like they're tough to deal with. I'm going to take Arizona, but dude, like this game, good luck. Like these are 2 damn good basketball teams. Like this is going to be a fun one. I'll ride with Arizona, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Houston handled their business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you. I probably like the over in that game. I think, you
Yeah.
know, those coaches like to score a lot of points and fast paced up and down the floor. So I'm excited to watch that one. Moving to Friday, 7:09 game, CBS, St. Peter's, Purdue. Purdue's favored by 12.5. I personally think, you know, St. Peter's can only go so far. You even said it. One game would have been enough for them. Purdue's a really good team. I don't know how they deal with, you know, 7'4". St. Peter's going to deal with 7'4" guys, not to mention NBA guy and Jaden Ivey. So I think Purdue's going to win very easily in this one. I don't even think it's going to be fun to watch, but do you give the Peacocks any chance to keep this one close?
I mean, I'll give them a shot, right? Like, I mean, not only like, you know, we've seen them winning games, but they've been, you know, the number 2 team against the spread in the country all season long. They have covered a ton of spreads. Now, obviously, they were playing different teams, you know, than, you know, a Purdue, right? I'm with you, though. Like, it's one thing in a weekend to where you're not thinking about it and you just go. Like, there's been a lot of text and a lot of people telling St. Peter's players and coaches how great they've been doing, how much they love them, parents saying how proud of them they are. Purdue's not getting those texts because they're expected to do this, right? Like, they've just been working. So I'm with you, man. Like, it's hard to show up and have magic again. Yeah, give me Purdue to win. Give me Purdue to cover for sure.
Yeah, with the 1 seed out of Purdue's bracket, I mean, and obviously the 2, to me, there's literally zero excuses for Purdue not to make the Final Four this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to give the Big Ten a legitimate chance to win their first title in 22 years or whatever it is, and you know they get the winner of North Carolina, UCLA. They're going to be favored in that game, I think, and you know they'll have a chance to go to the Final Four. And there's, to me, no excuses why they shouldn't get there. So moving on to the next game, Providence, Kansas. I think a lot of people just don't get to watch Providence play basketball. They're a really good team. Ed Cooley's really good coach, but Kansas, I mean, again, you know, along with Arizona, Gonzaga, consensus top 3 team in the country, 1 seed. They're favored by 7.5. What do you think, Allan?
Yeah, so I'm with you. Like, you know, all year people would say like Providence is the, you know, quote unquote luckiest team because a lot of balls, you know, did bounce their way. Like in football, if you fumble and, you know, if you fumble 10 times in a year and you recover 9 of them, like the odds of that just aren't like that just doesn't happen. Right. But like you said, like Providence is a really good basketball. Like there's a reason why, you know, the ball, you know, has kind of bounced their way. So look, I think I'm going to take Providence to cover. I think Kansas wins, right? Because I also think that, you know, if you're looking at Kansas up by, say, 9, right, with, you know, 5 minutes left, Kansas is looking to bigger and better things. Like, they'll sit guys, right? Like, they're not afraid to do it because they know that they've got to play in 2 days, right? And they're, you know, kind of ran as a professional basketball team. So they're not afraid to do it. And I can see even if Providence is down, you know, kind of big, they'll steal some points away there at the end. So, you know, yeah, like Kansas wins, but I'll ride with Providence to cover for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like the Friars to cover, but I think Kansas wins.
Yeah.
Second to last game, aforementioned North Carolina, UCLA. Hubert Davis has that team playing good basketball. I mean, they almost pulled the choke job of the century against Baylor, but they hung on. They rose to the occasion overtime, and then you got Mick Cronin doing it again with UCLA. You know, if he gets past this game, he's going to have Purdue or St. Peter's, and that's a very winnable game to go to second straight Final Four. A little bit of a better seed this year as a 4 versus last year. What were they, an 11? So, and play the playing game. So a little bit easier path this year, but he's in position once again to make a Final Four run. UCLA is favored by 2.5 points, which I thought was honestly a little bit low. But you know, what do you think? Maybe North Carolina pulls this upset off.
So it's one of those suspect lines that you spoke about earlier, right? Like you look at it, you're like, really? Like that didn't seem right. I'm going to go with it. Like I'm going to take UCLA minus 2.5, and it's nothing against North Carolina. Like their guards have been coming out of games, starting them on fire. They have not been afraid to fire threes, hit threes. They love the 3 goggles move, by the way, which I've laughed about. Like it's kind of funny. But you know, again, it's hard to do that over and over and over. Tennessee was a team that was doing that. And it's like, once that stops, dude, it's done, right? And I think that UCLA is a better overall team. I think UNC is playing their absolute best basketball of the entire year right now. But I just question how long that can last. So if you're giving me UCLA and you're giving it to me under 3 points, because again, if they're up, with 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left, whatever, like fouls are going to come into this as well, right? So you're going to kind of steal some points too. So yeah, give me UCLA -2.5. I'll take that all day.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I think the Tar Heels made a nice run, but I think it comes to an end on Friday night. And then the last game of the Sweet 16, and then we'll kind of wrap the show up. Interesting 11-10 game. Iowa State against Miami. Hurricanes favored by 2.5. I think I'm going to go with the U. They're playing good ball right now. I mean, Iowa State's a better team than most people give them credit for, and they've had a nice run. I don't know. Gut feeling, I'm going with the U.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, and if anybody hasn't watched Miami basketball, they are a completely different team than any other team that's standing right now. Probably any other team in the tournament. Like, they are built to create turnovers. They created 18 against USC. I think they shot 1 from 14 from 3 and won that game because they create so many turnovers. And you saw what they did to Auburn, the exact same thing. Like, they take you out of your offense. You cannot run, a 20, 25-second offense because they're going to rip it. Like, that's what they do, right? You could get rebounds on them. They don't necessarily crash the glass, but they just cause so many problems. So I'm going to continue to ride them. Like, Miami has cashed a low number. Yeah, I'll take the U.
Awesome. Well, it's going to be an exciting Sweet 16, Elite 8 this weekend. Thanks for breaking it down with us. Just last thing on college basketball, and then we'll touch one thing on college football before we let you go.
Yeah.
Anything you're thinking about? I mean, I know we don't know the matchups yet, but Elite 8, maybe any futures bets right now that the field's down to 16, anything that you like that you're seeing at the moment?
Yeah. So, kind of what we talked about, like looking at the Elite 8, like understand and know the numbers, know the lines, right? Like when you get small favorites, if you're playing the favorites, yeah, like understand possessions, right? So, if you've got a -5, right, like you're looking at 3, 4, 5 possessions that you have to be up at the end. And you could get, some good luck with free throws. But if you're not, like, it's hard to cover those numbers. So look at small spreads because these are all going to be really good teams. Now, moving from that to futures, understand, like right now, if you're going to play a future, do it before tomorrow or Thursday, right? Do it before the game start, because how you can go about it is this, right? Like you look at the favorites: Gonzaga +230, Kansas +475, Arizona +500, Purdue +900, and you can keep going down the list. I'm not going to read them all to you, but what I'm saying is this: is that right now you could use the book's numbers against them. All right. So what I'm saying is this. So you could couple these teams together. So get a list of teams that can realistically win this thing. All right. Gonzaga, Kansas, Arizona, Houston, Nova, Texas Tech, Duke, UCLA, those right there. All right. So if your lowest number, say you want to roll with Gonzaga +230, well, if you put the same amount of money down on these teams, right? You could take Gonzaga +230, and you could take Kansas +475. Just using it as an example, if you put $50 on Gonzaga, $50 on Kansas, well, look, your lowest number is +230. So now you have two teams, and since you put the same number down, now you have two, and if either hits, you profit either way. Right? So you could look at it that way. Then you could expand out. You could go to +475. You could take 4 teams equal money. Or you could go to +1,000, right? And now you're opening it up 5 teams. They just have to be, you just have to understand like that +475 or whatever your lowest number. So you could use the book's numbers against them and create odds and just say, all right, I'm going to fade Gonzaga and I'm going to take 4 teams against them. I think I'm sitting pretty good. So long story short, like it's hard to pick a winner in this tournament. Use the numbers and the leverage against the books. It might not be that big, $20,000 payout that you're looking for, but you're just looking to make money, and that's how you can do it.
Yeah, I actually do that a lot with the NFL playoffs. Right before the playoffs start,
Yeah.
I pick a few teams. I hit with the Rams this year, so that was
nice,
that was a
man.
good one.
Nice.
Yeah. I had the Rams, the Bills. I didn't have your Titans. I wasn't feeling them this year.
Well, it's a smart move. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a smart call. It's kind of like betting golf or like NASCAR, right? Like you've got
Right.
so many people in there that it's like, dude, look, like picking one, hard, bro. Like it's hard to do. Like use the numbers, in your favor for sure.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good tip. Everyone should definitely wherever your preferred sports book is, definitely get over there and do that. Last thing, Allan, before we let you go, look ahead to college football. I already took Ohio State at plus 700 a couple months ago to win next year's title. I like what they got coming back. I'm not a homer. I wouldn't do that every year. I realistically think with Jim Knowles coming in, fixing up the defense a little bit, which was their biggest problem. And then having CJ Stroud coming back might end up being the best player in college football this year, at least in the top handful of guys, as long as he stays healthy. And with Ryan Day calling that offense, I just think that they got a great opportunity. And I like those odds at 7-1. But, when it comes to your perspective on Ohio State, maybe good future bets, anything else catching your eye for college football, for those fans, those Ohio State fans that are maybe too depressed to keep watching the tournament and are focused, shift the focus to football. Anything you like and you see so far?
Well, I'll tell you this, for any, Buckeyes fans that are, depressed, upset about the basketball, look, everybody in the state that I'm in is depressed too, right? So, hey, we can all get a beer together. Look, I'm with you. Like, it's generally a good bet to bet on Ohio State before any season, right? Like, they're one of the best coach teams in the country, one of the best recruited teams in the country. And like you said, getting Knowles to come into that defense, dude, that was a massive, massive hire. And what we saw out of Stroud throwing the ball, I mean, even Vrabel, was fired up about it, right? Like, so I'm with you, man. And, you look at, the top of the teams here, like Alabama being your favorite at, plus 200, Georgia at plus 325, and then Ohio State right there. And then, those three teams are kind of like the upper tier, and then it drops off significantly, right? Now, Alabama's always going to be in it because they got Nick Saban. They're basically like Ohio State in the South. Like, they're going to get their 5 stars. They're going to have studs everywhere. There's questions to answer, about Alabama this year. I'm not betting on Georgia, right? Like, they just put their entire team, at the combine in the NFL draft. They'll be good, right? Like, they'll beat up on some SEC teams, but I don't think that they're going to come anywhere close to doing what they did last year, right? So, I think if you're looking at teams that can realistically win a title, Bama's up there. Obviously, Ohio State's up there. There's no way in the world I'm betting on Clemson. I'm not betting on USC. Texas A&M is going to be a good football team, but, winning a title, we'll see. Oklahoma, no chance. I'm not betting on them. And then Notre Dame, that's kind of where you get to here. And I think Notre Dame would be fine, but, they had a coaching change. I'm not buying into, winning a title yet. So long story short, what I'm saying is this. I think Alabama and Ohio State are your clear favorites coming out of the gate, right? And you've got an Ohio State team that's motivated too. It's you don't always get that, right? Like Bama and Ohio State both, are going to have just some anger coming out in this season in a good way. So yeah, man, I would sit with those two. Anybody else, not touch them. I'll have to see way, way more out of them. And I'm not, USC will be better. I'm not buying into all the Lincoln Riley just yet. Show it to me first. I've seen what Ohio State could do. I've seen what Bama could do. I'm not putting you in that category yet. So yeah, those two teams, man, if anybody's going to bet futures, it's those two. And I know that they're not great odds in terms of, a lottery type pick, but there's a reason for it. And as we say to college football, these teams generally make the college football playoff.
Yeah, and I'm glad I got in with Ohio State when I did. It looks like looking across the board, it's at either plus 500, plus 600, depending on what sports book you look at. So happy I got it plus 700. I do think, from my perspective, I'm also not buying Lincoln Riley coming in year 1 and winning a national title, maybe year 2, maybe year 3. We'll see. But I do think that at plus 3,500, which is what I'm seeing right now, maybe plus 2,500 to plus 3,500 range, depending on the book. I think with the Pac-12 being such a winnable conference, I do think there's an opportunity for them to come in with Caleb Williams and make the college football playoff in year 1. So I think that is good value, at least if you do want to kind of go out on a limb a little bit. I do think Texas A&M, even though I'm not sure they're going to be ready this year, but I do think at plus 3,500 around that range, same range as USC. I do think that's probably a good bet if you want to go out on a limb too, because one of the, whoever comes out of the SEC West is going to have a real shot for sure. So, if you're not into maybe if you want to take Allen's strategy a little bit and put some money on Alabama, Ohio State, and 2 of the longer shots, it could make sense. We'll see. But, yeah, Allan, thanks for joining the show. Always appreciate your insights. He's a great follow on Twitter. If you're not following him already, at Allan, Allan, Bell, Bell 247. Give him a follow. He throws out some great stats and things like that around games, around betting lines. And, it's always just a pleasure to read his stuff and hear from him too. So we appreciate you, Allan.
Man, I appreciate you, buddy. Keep continuing the great work. And man, it was just great to be on with you. Thank you.
You too. Well, listeners, thank you as well for listening. We will see you next week on Around the Oval, brought to you by Todd Pennington with Revolution Mortgage.
This episode of Around the Oval was brought to you by Todd Pennington with Revolution Mortgage. If you've been thinking about refinancing or buying a house, check out our sponsor, Todd Pennington with Revolution Mortgage. They offer low rates for refinancing and home purchase loans, including first-time home buyer programs, down payment assistance, and cash-out home equity loans. Check out revolutionmortgage.com/tpennington.